everyone. Today we're going to do lesson 3.5, Battle of the Alamo. And the objective for today is that students will be able to explain how Americans and the Tejanos fought together against Mexico to win independence for Texas, which became an independent nation in 1836. Hi everybody. So this is a map that we have of Texas and actually really of Mexico. So if you can see in this map here, you can see that Mexico goes pretty far north into this, and that we actually have Texas. I don't know if you can see right here, but we have Texas that is, there's the boundaries for Texas. And for a while, Texas was its own independent nation. But in 1830, go ahead and type this. So in 1830, sorry, my keyboard's just connecting. It's going to take a second. Texas was part of Mexico. Make that a little bit bigger. There we go. And when Texas was part of Mexico, Texas actually banned slaves and immigration of Americans to Texas. And so this caused some problems because there were already people living there that had slaves. There were already Americans that had immigrated there. And so this began the tension between the people of Texas and Mexico as a country. But it's interesting that part of the reason why that tension was caused was because Mexico did not want slaves in their territories. And so they began to call themselves Tejanos. And they were known as any resident who lived in Texas. So whether you were Mexican or American, you called yourself a Tejano. And that was just, again, known as a resident of Texas. And so again, this is what resulted in tensions between Mexico and Texas. We'll make that bigger so you guys can see all of that. There you go. So this is going to lead us to the Battle of the Alamo. And right here you see the Alamo. It's still standing. It's all lit up gorgeous at night. But this was an old fort that a group of Tejanos had taken over and kind of set up in this old fort. And then in February of 1836, we'll go ahead and type that in as well. So it was actually February 23rd of 1836. A Mexican general by the name of Santa Anna surrounded the Alamo. There were 1,800 Mexican troops, and inside there was only 180 what they called Texan rebels. One of those Texan rebels, just kind of a fun fact, was Davy Crockett. I don't know if you guys remember or heard anything about Davy Crockett. He was kind of a famous American pioneer. So he was one of the ones inside. And they were held captive. So the Texan rebels were held captive for 13 days before Santa Anna stormed and killed almost all of them. And so even though this was a huge defeat for the Tejanos, being defeated like this, showed the strength of the Tejano people and how they were willing to fight, and how they stayed in there for 13 days and held out for 13 days when there was such a huge difference. I mean, between 180 of them and 1,800 Mexican troops. And so the famous quote was then, "Remember the Alamo." became a battle cry for the Tejano people when fighting for their independence. It's like, see what we can do. We deserve our independence. We're strong people. And so this became their battle cry. And again, this is the Alamo right there. It's all beautifully lit up at night. And as you can see, it was a pretty strong building, right? So it was, you know, very fortified building. So even though they lost the battle of, or the Tejanos lost the battle of the Alamo, overall, they did eventually gain their independence. And that happened in April of 1836. General Santa Anna surrenders. And that's what you see here happening in this painting is the surrender of General Santa Anna. And Texas became an independent nation. And I don't think many people realize that Texas was independent for a while before it became part of the United States. And we'll discuss a little bit later when they became the part of the United States and why that happened. But again, right here we have a painting of the general surrendering to the Tejano people.